My coach is a fourth generation submarine captain. One day we were talking about a problem or a challenge that I had with one of my clients, and we were discussing it. And he said, let me tell you a story. And he had been on patrol for about 4 months and had been submerged for about 3. And one particular evening, my coach was asleep in his quarters. It was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And on the other end of the boat, a young technician, a young seaman, who I think was about 18 or 19 years old, he was welding some pieces of metal together. You can imagine that submarines are full of very hard edges, very unforgiving environment, and pipes under immense pressure and temperature. A dangerous place. Anyway, this particular poor chap was doing some welding at 3 or 4 in the morning. Something happened. There was a terrible accident. He unfortunately died. And of course, my coach, the captain, found out about it almost instantly and was obviously alerted so that he could be made aware that one of the seamen under his command had died. And then he asked me this question. He said, whose fault was it that that young chap died? Just as I was about to answer, he said, let me give you some options. Was it the individual's fault, perhaps? Was it the person that trained that person, perhaps, and maybe signed him off to do that kind of work at that time in the morning unsupervised, and maybe wasn't quite ready for it? Was it who was on watch that night? Was it his boss? Was it the person who asked him to do that task unsupervised at 3 or 4? You get the idea, right? Was it the captain's fault? I thought about it for a moment. I said, well, it was probably the person that asked him to do it at that time in the morning and maybe didn't pay attention and didn't look after him, or didn't make sure that he was careful about what he was doing and walk him through the procedure. My coach said, no, it was my fault. I said, but it can't have been your fault. You were asleep. How could it possibly have been your fault? And he said, well, it was my submarine. When I take responsibility for that submarine, I take responsibility for everything that happens, the good and the bad, on that submarine. This was entirely my responsibility. In our very early coaching sessions with our leaders, we asked them to write this down. It's my submarine, right? One of our leadership golden rules is, it's always my fault. As a leader, it's always your fault, because it's your submarine.